and the LGBTQ plus community. So first, we're going to talk a little bit about the historical context behind how tobacco companies have kind of used marketing to really target the LGBTQ plus community, and how they've done it in disparate ways compared to the rest of, you know, the cis-het communities. So we'll start with the history. You can go to the next slide. So the first public encounter between the LGBTQ plus community and the tobacco industry occurred during the boycott of Philip Morris by the AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power, or ACT UP, in 1990. And they were boycotting the Philip Morris company because they supported Jesse Helms, who was the Senate's leading voice against AIDS funding. So in response to the protest by the LGBTQ plus community, the Philip Morris company pledged large donations to HIV and AIDS organizations as a way to kind of draw those customers back to them. And this was kind of a way for them to start entering into the LGBTQ plus space without necessarily appearing gay friendly. They simply took their money and put it into a cause that the queer community would consider worthy. And in 1992, Genre magazine, which is a magazine that was targeted towards gay men, published the first tobacco ad in a national LGBT magazine for the new Philip Morris brand called Benson and Hedges Special Kings, which is pictured on this screen. And as you can see, there's a quote that says, the Philip Morris media study outlined in internal tobacco industry documents described the potential BHSK consumer as hip, trendy, image/status conscious, and into clothes, music, liquor, and nightlife. So very stereotypical, not exactly positive stereotypes in all cases of gay men at the time that they were using to target this community. You can go to the next slide, please. So targeting skyrocketed in the community since then, and Project Scum was a major marketing project that started, that was proposed in 1995 to sell cigarettes to members of the alternative lifestyle areas of San Francisco, which would be like the Tenderloin area. And between 1995 and 1997, internal documents within the RJ Reynolds Company, which is the tobacco company that sells Camel and Red Camel cigarettes, they basically came up with a deliberate marketing strategy to target LGBTQ plus youth in San Francisco. And the company noted that in the Castro district, the opportunity exists for a cigarette manufacturer to dominate. They described the people that they were targeting, again, as rebellious, Generation Xers, and street people. So they used very specific, not exactly positive, pretty negative stereotypes in order to kind of box in the market that they were trying to use, that they were trying to target for their new products. And in 2000, these documents were leaked to the press. And then the next slide, which will be Josie.
So kind of fast forwarding to today, I'm a numbers person. I like to see statistics and math and graphs. So if that's not you, tune out for a minute. But according to the CDC, the estimated number of individuals identifying as lesbian, gay, or bisexual in the US is around 3%. Now, we don't know how accurate that number is because it is largely underreported. But these surveys were people who are out and identify as such. So 1/5 of these individuals are smokers. So taking the current US population, that would be about under 2 million lesbian, gay, and bisexual smokers in the United States. Talking a little bit more about targeting, the lesbian, gay, and bisexual adults are about 2.5 times more likely to smoke than straight adults. And as you can see in the graph, that's about 20% of people smoking, which is huge. And again, of course, the smoking rates are decreasing, but we really need to be looking at who these smoking cessation efforts are being targeted towards and why these rates are so much higher. Also, vaping is new and hip and cool, and everybody loves vape, but actually vaping is just as dangerous. So a lot of people will start vaping to quit smoking, but vaping and e-cigarettes are not FDA approved for the purpose of quitting smoking. There are FDA approved drugs and therapies for quitting smoking, such as nicotine patches and other things, but vaping and e-cigarettes do contain nicotine, and actually highly concentrated nicotine. So it's the same chemical as smoking cigarettes, and therefore not actually breaking that, that habit. So vaping works both as an entryway for teens and young adults into smoking, as well as an ineffective exit for adults. So therefore the vaping rates are just so high, because not only do teens think it's cool and are getting into it because it's not smoking, but also adults trying to quit aren't being able to quit and actually end up doing poly or duo tobacco use, where they both smoke cigarettes and e-cigarettes, which is just increasing your levels of nicotine. So this may seem obvious, but there is no safe level of tobacco use. Quitting, unfortunately, in this case, there are other therapies, but poly or duo tobacco use is not safe at any level.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the health-related consequences and disparities, specifically in the LGBTQ plus community, that are that can or cannot be related to tobacco use, but a lot of the times they are. So first is cardiovascular disease. I found that a study examining differences in cardiovascular disease markers in sexual minority adults found that gay and or bisexual men and lesbian or bisexual women exhibited elevations in blood pressure relative to heterosexuals. So the individuals who are either homosexual or bisexual actually had higher levels of cardiovascular disease markers than their heterosexual counterparts. And the mean age of participants was about 29 years. So these were all pretty young people. And gay and bisexual men also had elevations in CRP, which is a marker of inflammation, and pulse rate compared to heterosexual men. And there's a study right now called Aging with Pride, which is looking at seniors who identify as LGBTQ+. And the National Health, Aging and Sexuality and Gender Study found that lesbian and bisexual older women have higher rates of cardiovascular disease and obesity than heterosexual or older women of around the same age. And then in terms of oral health, about 30% of LGBTQ plus older adults reported dental problems requiring care, and people of color are at higher risk of dental impairment than non-Hispanic whites. Bisexual adults are more likely to rate oral health unfavorably at about 41% than heterosexual adults, which about 27% rated their oral health unfavorably. And gay men reported bone loss around teeth more frequently at 35% than heterosexual males at 11%, and bisexual men at 10%. And then you can go to the next slide.
So you may be wondering, we've just given you all of this information. What can I do about it? So of course, talking to your doctor or a trusted healthcare professional is a great first step. But if maybe you don't feel super comfortable talking about this with them, there are tons of LGBT specific resources available either online, over the phone, so you can remain socially distant and also trying to quit. So there's a website called Crush. There's smokefree.gov/LGBT, which has smoke-free resources, but also a specific section for LGBTQ plus community. The Gay and Lesbian Medical Association can help you find an LGBT friendly provider. So it's actually a really great resource, no matter what, whether you're quitting smoking or you just want to find a great provider that you have a great relationship with. And then the lgbthealthlink.org is also a great resource. Furthermore, we're in Pennsylvania, so I'm going to give you some of the PA resources: smokefreephilly.org, gethealthyphilly.org, and then there's a PA free quit line, which is 1-800-QUIT-NOW. Any of those resources, they'd be happy to talk to you if you want something more local. Advocacy work, ask your institution about their smoke-free policies. Many LGBT centers have some form of either a smoke-free policy or specific smoking policies that you can use and resource. And if they don't have one, help them develop one. It's a great way to kind of make sure that you are being in spaces that value your cardiovascular health, your lung health, and your oral health. Furthermore, reporting illegal tobacco sales. Unfortunately, tobacco sales still happen quite frequently to underage people. And so that is the line where you can report those. You can do it anonymously. It's just a phone call. There's even a text number if you don't feel comfortable talking on the phone. And then, of course, voting is the most important way you can have your voice heard. And we can send out these resources or just watch this back and you can use any of them. Next. All right, so I think, Taylor, we are finished with the presentation section. So do you want to introduce Micah?
Yeah, so we are very fortunate to have Micah Thomas here, who is a member of the Philadelphia Family Pride Board, who agreed to share some of his story about tobacco use. So I'll hand it over to you, Micah.
Hello, virtually everybody. Happy Thursday. We are almost at the end of this work week for us working on these Zoom calls. Look at everybody who is excited about that. I actually am kind of excited to share my story of smoking because it's not a secret that I smoke cigarettes. It's just something that I have not really been proud about. And for the fact that I'm 28 and I can say that I've been smoking cigarettes and tobacco products for 10 years is not like a proud thing that I can say. I actually, since the quarantine, have spoken with my therapist and I have been on nicotine patches, the 7 milligrams. Luckily, I have not had to pay for it. And I really have limited my cigarette smoking. I probably think about smoking 2 times a day, but I have really been like bettering myself with smoking cigarettes actually, and trying to limit tobacco use altogether. I've never been a fan of like hookahs or vaping, but even in like my former years of like cannabis use, I always would have a tobacco form of like paper that I would use that also is really harmful to the younger generations that's out here. You know, we oftentimes might start smoking cigarettes and then might move to weed or other tobacco products or hookahs or stuff like that. And we're not really educated about what we're doing. Growing up, I didn't really have anybody in my life who smoked cigarettes besides my brother. He was in the military, he was in the Navy. So, you know, kind of that sounds like a thing that happens to people in the military or the, you know, lesbians, gays, bisexuals. Like it sounds like different niches of people smoke. And like when I got older, I found out my grandmother used to smoke. My father used to smoke. And, you know, then I'm like, well, is that why your teeth look that way? My mom actually smoked, and before she passed away, she got diagnosed with COPD. So like that was another reason why I also wanted to stop smoking, because I was like, I don't want to risk getting COPD, but like maybe I have done 10 years worth of damage to my lungs that I might still be on the verge of maybe getting COPD. So I had to think about myself and the fact that I do have a young, small child, and that I need to make sure that I live over 35, 45, 55, and all these other age expectancies that, you know, I am not supposed to be living. So I also think about how if I ever wanted a job in a hospital, how nowadays at hospitals they say you have to stop smoking. They will give you a nicotine test. And I'm like, well, what do I do? So I think it's overall about health, wealth, and well-being. But one of the things that I noticed is I wore braces for about 3 years. I did not wear my retainers. And can I show y'all my teeth? Would y'all love to see what cigarettes have done to my teeth? I don't know if y'all gonna see it, but y'all see that? I cannot wait to go to the dentist. I'm like, please remove these 2 teeth, give me 2 fake teeth. I know it's from smoking. You wanna see it, Lance? You see it? It's black, you see it? It is black. Yeah, you put a little floss in it, got a little funk to it every now and then. Ugh, it's bad. Cigarettes also do a lot of things to like your breath and like your stomach. I've had partners tell me that I had bad morning breath because it smelled like cigarettes, even though I didn't smoke cigarettes around them. And I'm glad that you guys gave me the opportunity to even be around for this smoking, vaping in the LGBT community, because I feel like probably 90% of the people I know in Philadelphia smoke some form of tobacco. And especially to my trans siblings, especially when it goes to like us getting gender affirming surgeries, oftentimes our physicians are telling us, y'all got to stop smoking cigarettes or your scars aren't going to heal correctly. And I think that we hear that, but sometimes we're like, I need this cigarette to make me feel better. And like, it's honestly about maybe us learning new tools as to why we think that we want a cigarette. And I feel like nicotine patch kind of helped with that. I was still getting the nicotine and I did not have to smoke a cigarette. And now when I have a cigarette or I think I want to smoke a cigarette, I'm entirely too lazy to actually smoke it. I don't like the taste of it. My son, I don't like secondhand smoke at all. If I'm smoking and I have my son around me, he's like, Micah, move, the cigarette smoke, I can't breathe. And I actually was watching something, no idea what it was about, but they were saying that if you're walking by somebody and you smell the cigarette smoke and the secondhand smoke, that is exactly how coronavirus can travel in the air. So like, that's another way to think about just germs in general. I know a lot of people spit when they smoke, especially like in front of bars, and we share a lot of cigarettes with people and our friends, not even just cigarettes, you know, loose cigarettes, joints, hookahs, all of these things. So I think it's about to say nukes. Nukes are bombs, I believe, not nukes, Lance. Yeah, but nukes for the one I want. All right, bye. But we're about to go to Galay, okay? If you guys don't know, I'm actually the recruiter for Trans Equity Project at Galay. We actually don't really do anything in regards to smoking cessation, but I believe that this is going to give us an idea and to collaborate with our HIV prevention, our youth program, and Trans Equity Project. So I am excited to be a part of this. And if you guys have any questions for me, I'm more than willing to answer those.
Thank you so much, Micah. That was really great. I guess one question I have for you is, have you noticed, or do you think that advertising has had any influence on you or other members of the LGBTQ plus community in initiating their smoking?
I think that like in the Black community, we smoke Newport Box 100s. But I mean, when I was in Alabama, I was working with white folks. They had Misties and Marlboro, menthols, and Camel Crushes. Those are my favorite because you get to crush it. It's a little thing, a little menthol taste. But I really think for the fact that we have moved from like a literate society to like a technological society, I really don't see ads or like anything on like Facebook or Instagram about smoking. But when hookah became like that big craze 3-4 years ago, that's all I constantly see. Those Juul pens, Juul. I didn't know it was Juul. I know everybody does those things. And then like even to the point like now the new wave is like because everybody has a medical marijuana card, they're getting like the wax and they're putting it in the pens and like other and adding other things to it. So I think that nicotine smoking per se has evolved into this new thing, and now it's becoming even more toxic than what it used to be back in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. Like we could smoke at church, we could smoke on the airplane. I mean, never in my generation could any of these things happen, but like every now and then I do know of a bar where like you can smoke cigarettes. And I mean, that was the thing. And I mean, who wants to be in a bar with 35 people smoking cigarettes? I come back smelling like a whole ashtray and like it's bad. I think I answered your question. So yeah, no, I don't see the advertising. I think it's more of like a cultural thing. Like my culture, my Black identity, we smoke Newports. I also know that a lot of people who work at bars, they tend to smoke Marlboro. So like I don't want to say like only one type of person smokes this thing, but I do see if I go to any corner store in North Philadelphia, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a Newport sign that tells you that the pack is $11.75. And it's not going to be any other pack. If there's a man on the corner selling Lucy's or Newports, it's going to be Newport Box 100. It's not going to be some unauthenticated brand of cigarette. I believe that the Newport is kind of like the baseline for like illegal cigarettes being sold. And I'm sorry to be like out in the illegal cigarette world trade, but I feel like that is like the place. Like if the tobacco industry really wanted to like get the people selling illegal to people, like it's Newports, honestly. But yeah, like I remember like reading Jet magazine and Essence magazines and only really seeing Newport ads. So I really do think that the tobacco industry knows who they're selling for who. Like there's a reason why you can only get Juuls at 7-Elevens. There are reasons why there are new laws being passed that flavored cigarillos and flavored tobacco products are being lifted from Wawa, 7-Elevens, and these stores in Philadelphia. And they see that it's because our children who need it most, that it doesn't matter what our skin complexion is. Our children are the ones who they are seeing, the ones who are getting caught up in this, and now it's becoming an epidemic or a pandemic that you want to call it. I like that in the presentation that you guys did, that you guys talked about ACT UP, because I actually have worked really closely with ACT UP in a lot of things. And I know majority of the people who I work with ACT UP, we all smoke cigarettes. We all do. So like that just shows you how it's a thing. Maybe we're all stressed and we need to find new tools as to maybe not smoke cigarettes, but like it's a thing that we've been doing. A lot of us have tried to stop many of times, and like some people like, you know what? Something's already gonna kill me, so I might as well do this one thing that I enjoy. Any other questions?
I don't have any, but thank you so much for talking and sharing your story with us.
Oh yeah, I actually want to know. Come here, Lance. Lance, how do you feel about me smoking cigarettes? Like we might as well get another generation. Cause honestly, I hope he is the generation who doesn't like smoking cigarettes because I smoke cigarettes. And I remember even when he was a kid, I thought that he had asthma, but it was really the fact that me and his dad were just secondhand smoking around him. And once we eliminated not doing that in the house, we live separate houses. So once we both stopped doing that in each of each other's houses, he doesn't have asthma. Like there's no need to have an inhaler. But you know, if it gets humid or he's sick and he can't break down mucus. So I mean, I really appreciate you guys having me. I got to swing while I was on this call. I got to stop at the park, have a little self-care. And you know, like I said, I'm still new into this stopping smoking thing, and I have my moments where I do smoke. And Stephanie, you're welcome. But I remember even being at like Philly Family Pride board meetings and like leaving and stepping out and like being conscious. They're like, oh, do you need a ride? I'm like, no, I'm gonna smoke this cigarette and walk to the train. And like, you know, it's something to advocate about. Like, I don't want my son to start smoking cigarettes. I don't want him to have to, I don't want to, you know, my parents paid all this money for me to have braces, and now I got crooked teeth and teeth that's decaying because I didn't take care of them. And I want to make sure that I can live and not have my lungs constrict inside my body because they blacken the inside, because that's what happens with this stuff that we put in our body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, any questions that I had, you absolutely answered. I am so grateful to you for volunteering and taking the time today to speak with us. It was really insightful and really beneficial. I hope this is beneficial for the larger LGBTQ plus community as well. And really, really thank you for taking the time and being so candid. This was awesome. Thank you, Micah.
Thank you, and I'm here for any future ones that you guys may have. Here, baby, put your mask.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, we'll forward your information along to our internship program because I think they would love to have you speak, honestly. All right.
Micah, good luck with that.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right.
And the last note I want to leave you all on is, remember, unless it's medically prescribed, do not inhale anything into your lungs other than air, please. I know it seems like common sense, but don't inhale chemicals into your lungs.
Right. Okay.
Wear a mask. There you go.
Yes, and wear a mask. Thank you all so much for those of you who tuned in, and I hope that people can watch this recording back and get some information out of it. And thank you all, and have a great rest of your summer. All right.
Good job.